morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the first day of December 2023. Welcome to our show today. I got to tell you, I'm really excited about this show today because I like people who truly have gotten in the game and are working to restore this nation to the point of going through some incredible hardship and then turning that into a positive go for this nation and for God Almighty. So that's why we're here. We're here to serve each other and to work for God's good purposes. And I love that. What a time to be alive. It's just amazing. So anyhow, I'm going to introduce my first and all guests today because I wanted to give them lots of time. The subject of January 6th, which was a complete and total setup. Anyone who's a salient adult can look at this and know that this was a Fedsurrection set up by some very criminal people within our own government, the enemy of the people, the deep state. And so I want to give them lots of time to talk about what they've gone through and what they're doing right now to help defend this nation. So Troy Smocks is a former January 6th Washington, D.C. Gulag detainee. He suffered 13 months in 23 hours. I can't talk today. I got out of the gym and my brain's fried here. Suffered 13 months in 23 hours a day solitary confinement. Troy never even entered the U.S. Capitol. I want you to think about that on January 6th, but was arrested as the first American casualty political prisoner in the Biden regime war on protected political speech. Today, Mr. Smocks spends much of his time in a federal civil courtroom where he is suing the corrupt United States government for $2.5 billion. Bravo! That is great. In retaliation to in relation to his tyrannical treatment by Washington's Department of Justice and the Capitol Police and Pelosi and Schumer and Paul Ryan and John Boehner. They're all involved in this. And we can go up further, but we know that these people absolutely had a hand in this because why? They wanted to keep the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, out of office. Now, we're also going to have on David Sumrall. I think is how you say his name. I'll stand corrected in about a minute here. Christian Carpenter, small business owner, activist, citizen journalist. Yay! January 6th documentary filmmaker of writing history, Bloody Hill, 1,000 Days of Terror, founder of StopHate in 1992. He's been at this for a long time. And StopHate.com, co-founder of the American Celebration Tour, creator and host of Discussion Island and American Gulag Chronicles board president, American Patriot Relief board member, lead J6 expert, J6 investigator licensed through the DOJ with access to all government videos, which is kind of key right here. J6 attendee and court witness for defendants. He's an expert witness, warrior for truth and justice. So I want to bring these gentlemen on because you know what? We are going to see these political prisoners freed. This is unspeakable, horrific that this has gone on American soil, let alone across the world anywhere. But that the people that are sitting in the positions of power have absolutely committed some of the most heinous crimes that we could even imagine, and they're all guilty of treason. So anyhow, welcome to the show this morning, guys.
Good morning. And happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. I'm hoping I catch my mouth up with my brain here, my brain up with my mouth, and can talk. But welcome to the show. I'm so honored to have you guys here. I didn't even know about you, Troy, until maybe a very short time ago, which is really pretty telling on how complicit the mainstream media is and why we're here on Brandenburg News Network to basically step over the top of them. They're obstructionists. They have engineered the narrative. They're hiding the crimes that they're guilty of being involved in creating. And so I really am excited to hear your story, the whole story from beginning to end, and then how the two of you have been working together on this horrific action within our borders.
Okay. Again, good morning, everybody. Happy holidays to you. Let's see. There's so much to tell. First, I am a Jan Sixer. Um, I was I actually occupied, I believe it was Brandon Straka's cell. Once he left, I occupied at C2B cell 14. But I was the only black detainee in the whole Gulag with 3 dozen white supremacists.
How did that work? Were they white supremacists after all, or was this kind of like another media engineered nonsense?
It was a lot of media engineered nonsense. Now there was one white supremacist. I'm not going to say his name, but he know who he is. But the
Biden?
rest of them, no, no, no. For he, even though he started as a white supremacist, I think he ended up pretty good. So,
well, that's good. We as Christians, we teach people how to get past some of this unfortunate captivity into sin by Satan himself. So good job.
Yes, which is one of the reasons why I'm suing the Department of Justice, because Biden, he comes on national television and he declares all of these guys white supremacists. And then he takes the only black guy and he tosses me right into the cell with 3 dozen white supremacists by myself. So either you're lying about the white supremacy or you're trying to get me killed in order to foster your narrative on white supremacy. And there's only 2 ways to look at it, But thank God, he was lying. I kind of felt like Daniel, in the lion's den for a minute. It's kind of like taking a raw chicken and throwing it into a pond of hungry alligators. If they was white supremacists, I wasn't going to last too long. Yeah. But thank God I came out of there unscathed and with a lot of lifelong friends. The majority of the guys in the Gulag, when we first met, I was there for a little over a year, but everyone, their spirits was high. Everyone was gung-ho and fighting this case, fighting this tyranny. By the time I left the Gulag 13 months later, I was the only person in there that wasn't on psych meds.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, this is what the media is not telling you. And
there's how many people in there, and you were the only one not on psych meds?
Yeah, there was 36 of us in the Washington D.C. Gulag.
Oh my goodness!
And we've had, and here's something that I really think that is important. What the Biden regime was trying to do, they was trying to initiate a race war, because they'd taken 3 dozen white men and they stuck them into the blackest district in the United States, which is Washington, D.C. Coming up, we used to call it D.C. Chocolate City, because the demographics there were so brown, as we shall say. But that's equivalent to take 36 black men and sticking them into rural Alabama, and the makeup would be the same. And then what Biden did, he went on national television and he called them all white supremacists after sticking them there. There was no way in the world that they were going to get a fair trial, and he knew it.
Or good treatment.
And none of them was getting it.
Or good treatment with being labeled as a lie. And, it's like, I think that's one of the lamest excuses. Our family's a mixed racial family. And it is such a crazy ignorance to even go there. People should be regarded as an individual, no matter who they are. We're all created by God, and that is one of the dumbest that is one of the dumbest attacks that they can make, or that people can swallow. That we have to stand against that. You're gonna have idiots in every if you want to divide up the nation into a million different subgroups, you're going to have ignorance across the board. There's always going to be people that are fighting for, with a good heart for love of all people and service to God and man, right, and country. And you're going to have people that are ignorant. But you can't once you start labeling It's all deception. We have that in the political parties too. Republicans, Democrats, they're all the same at this point in time. You know,
They are.
it's a uniparty, and they're all working against we the people. So you
That's
slap
right.
a label on it, you slap a label on anything, and all of a sudden the predisposition against something, their little psyop is started right there with a label.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And you know, getting back to my point, the Biden administration wanted to start a race war by treating all of these white people in DC really bad, very, very bad. And a lot of civilians or a lot of people outside the jail, they were under the impression that it was the Black Americans that were treating the detainees bad, and it was not. The Black American correctional officers treated us very well, which is why the warden took them off of the unit and restricted them from coming back on the unit. She replaced them with Black Africans, imports.
Wow.
That was treating the white detainees bad.
So they
And
weren't even Americans.
they weren't even Americans. They were African detainees, and they would do whatever the warden pretty much told them to do. We had some Black Americans that that treated us very well when we first came into their system. They believed the hype, but after a week or so of being with us 23 hours a day, they knew that, you know, something, that dog don't hunt, as we say here in Texas, and their demeanor started to change, and to the point where the hour that we would be released from our cells, some of the guards they were so comfortable they would go to sleep. They would go to sleep right there in the, you know, nothing was going to happen to them. We weren't there. They weren't our enemies. You know, the those domestic people on Capitol Hill were. But I thought it was
Paul in jail, you know.
yes, and you know, as you were saying, the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats because all of this madness about white supremacy that could have been abolished a long time ago because the members of the Congress on December 4th of 2021, they came in to visit us. And when they came in to visit us, they saw my face. It's not like I could hide against the wall, but they saw my face. So all of that, you know, the first thing that any reasonable person would have asked is, wait a minute, why is this Black guy in here with all of these white supremacists? That's the first question any reasonable person would have asked. And knowing that, they could have went back and said, you know, Joe Biden, you're full of crap. You know, these guys are not white supremacists. Those politicians, and I won't set her out, but you know who she is too, you know. She could have put an end to that white supremacy nonsense a long time ago. But
Without
they
you
just let
saying
it
it,
continue.
can I look up her name here a minute?
You sure can.
I'm going to put it right out there because there's going to be nowhere to hide when we're done with the whooping they're going to take. All right. So where would I look without you saying her name?
Georgia.
She's one of the leading quote unquote activists in J6. She has the biggest voice. Everybody, you know, thinks that that's the right direction to go, and they the leaders. You know, she has really done a number on a lot of people. People don't understand the politics involved in the uniparty. They don't recognize it yet, and they play the public like the drum.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to have to look a little bit here to see if I can find it.
But while you're looking, let me just say you've touched on some things for me. The prejudice side of the division created by the government. You know, StopHate is actually an acronym. Start turning off prejudice, heal attitudes through education. And that's exactly what you're talking about, this labeling and intentional division among people. You know, for years they used race, they've tried religion, they've tried health issues, and they know now that if they can politicize issues, they can divide the country down the middle. And Troy's, you know, spot on. They want a big civil war. They want a conflict. They want us to hurt each other. And literally, if the people would understand The analogies going around big, the ants in a jar, the red ants and the black ants, they get along until someone shakes the jar. These are the people that are shaking the jar. They're in our government, and they tell us one thing and they do another. They promise this and never deliver that. And the American people are really sick and tired of being used as, political bait.
Oh, nobody's buying their nonsense anymore either. It's like it's amazing to me how over it the American population is right now. Yeah, it's going to take me a minute to find it. Sometimes I can hit things on like
we'll just say her first name is Marjorie.
Marjorie. Well, Marjorie the warden.
No,
no.
Last name.
Say it again, Dave.
Last name is a color. It's not blue, but it's.
Is it green?
It is.
Yes.
Oh my! There you go, Marjorie Green, the warden.
No, she's not the warden. She's a representative.
Well, she's the warden now because she's actually the gatekeeper there. So we're just going to call her the warden. She's the Gulag warden. So, but no, I know what you mean, Marjorie Green. So there you go. So yeah, so this is incredible, and this is what we see all over the United States right now. Is honestly, our representatives are doing nothing. They have the ability to do it. They're doing nothing. They went around with all these unconstitutional lockdowns. They've gone along with everything. They're writing unconstitutional laws. So if not one of them is really standing up in any meaningful way and saying, hold the phone, guys, we need to organize against this or get something done. No, they just show up, they go for their little photo ops, and then they walk away. And it's crazy. So anyhow, there you go.
Yeah.
So what else did you see while you were there? What else happened?
Well, I saw not just what I saw, but what I experienced. Those guys in DC, they're going through it. They're going through hell. I'm not sure if the circumstances that they're in have gotten any better. When we were there were pubic hairs being put in our food, bleach put in our food. You had to actually spend your own money on the commissary, which was 5 or 6 times the normal price, just to eat, because you didn't trust the food that was there. At any given time, the guards could take you out, move you across the prison, beat you up. And there were people that have been severely beaten by the guards up there. And
why are they beat? What's their excuse for beating them?
They do not like their political ideologies.
So do they come right out and say it? I mean, I know that it's just torturing. It's torturing political prisoners is what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what they're there to do. Yeah, that's what they're there to do. Absolutely. They pick the fights, just like the Capitol Police did on January 6th. The reason that January 6th occurred is because Nancy Pelosi needed an incident to happen at the Capitol. The protesters did not start that event, which is coming out now. And I've been saying this for over a year, haven't I, Dave? The police started the fight. They began targeting the elderly, the wives and children of these military members. And, you're not going to attack the wives and our kids. And we don't care who you are. If you want to fight, let's fight. But we're not going to sit here and let you, punk us in front of our family members or injure them. And that's exactly what they wanted to do. The first shots that were fired by them. And Nancy Pelosi, she knew it. She needed this. And it wasn't, I'll say this again, it wasn't so much about January 6th as about January 20th. They didn't want all of these protesters coming back on Inauguration Day with signs and voicing their concerns about Joe Biden stealing the election. Imagine if you have all the media outlets from around the world covering the inauguration, and you have over 2 million people, American people, showing up with signs. And his presidency would have been a farce from day one. They didn't want that. So strategically, Nancy Pelosi needed a reason to fence off the Capitol. And then they put all these vacant chairs up there with balloons like, oh yeah, all of these people would have come to the inauguration, when he couldn't even get 10 people into a parking lot to hear him speech or hear a speech prior to the election.
This is the more you look at this, the deeper this thing goes, and you know, I'm kind of speechless right now, really, because it's so. I don't even know what to say. I mean, there's nothing that can excuse any of this. And you know, going back to the members of Congress that showed up there and did nothing. I don't even know how you can speak to this, other than the fact that our entire government is at war against we the people.
They are,
and the people that are being presented to us as good. I've kind of lost my belief that any of them are doing the right thing. You know, we'll go back to, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene being put out in front there, and then she shows up and does nothing. And we were talking about, I was talking to one of our senators in Michigan, his camp this week. And the question is Gretchen Whitmer just wrote in a gun control bill into law, and it's making misdemeanors an excuse for taking your guns away. And you look at that, and even though people were fighting it or said they were fighting it, they weren't. Why have they not done anything meaningful once they just show up for the camera? So I don't quite understand this. Can we go into, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene a little bit more and lay this out of what she could have done or what she didn't do?
Well, I don't really know enough about the lady to really go into what she has done and what she hasn't. I know that all she had to do in order to cure this white supremacy thing is say, well, if they're white supremacists, why do we have a black guy in there with them? That would have nailed that. It would have ended it.
So any of them could have spoken up against this and turned this around very quickly. Why are they not speaking up about I didn't realize that there were all of these immigrants that were basically the jailers there. You know, I had no idea that was going on either.
No, I mean, I will say this, you know, maybe they haven't paid that much attention, or, you know, after the cameras are turned off, it seems that nobody really cares. And then you have reporters like Julie Kelly, you know, when January 6th first happened, anyone in the jail where we were, they could give her a call. She was anxious to take the call. Once she got on her pedestal and she got her notoriety, the people that the story centered around most, which was the January 6ers, she didn't want to talk to us anymore. You know, but she was the expert, so-called the expert on January 6th. But there's things that she doesn't know because she quit asking. She got so wrapped up in the notoriety and everything of being the January 6th guru, as they call her. She forgot the little people that brought her there. And we're the ones with the answers. If you want to know the truth about something, then you go to the people on ground zero. We're ground zero.
Is there a way that we could do like a show where we could get as many people as we could on camera to talk to them? Is that possible?
That would be the man to talk to, Dave Sumrall. He has, boy, you know what? If the Pope was in town and Dave was standing next to him, they would recognize Dave and ask, who's the guy in the funny hat, you know? But no, he's the man to talk to.
I think this is going to be an expose for you and your audience that there are so many things, so many different angles to this. And the reason nobody knows is because of the representatives and the media that don't explore these angles. They have their set narratives that they have to follow. They can't release all the information that we have, or it would end the day for everyone. It would show who the real culprits are, the Congress and senators that are complicit, that know about the police brutality and the murders and the carnage, and have not stepped forward to defend their constituents. There's been no representation for January 6ers for 3 years. Nobody's for us the way they should. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene has ridden both sides of the fence about the release of the video. Oh, we need to release it all. Oh, we can't release it all. Okay, we're going to release some of it. None of that's fair. That's been the golden carrot dangling over everybody's head. Oh, the video, when we need to be focused on release the J6 hostages, because that's who's suffering. They're not a flight risk. They're not a danger to society. They could sit at home instead of in a prison in isolation, solitary confinement for almost 3 years now, some of them, and haven't even had their day in court yet, the due process violations. There's so many angles to this. In the prison system, Troy has experienced that. The guards are real. They're not Americans. They're trained to hurt people. That's their job. That's their purpose. We've seen so much cover up in these gulags that are now across America. We have American citizens being held everywhere in prisons, in maximum security prisons for misdemeanors. That doesn't happen. And how many billions of dollars have we spent on these bogus investigations and manhunts and raids? The shock and awe that they declared in the very beginning is the whole campaign. It's to tighten the noose of control around our necks and to try to deem us all as domestic violent extremists, a person that's a threat to persons or property, which we're neither. We were protesters. We went peacefully as the original election auditors to do the right thing at the right time, literally were attacked by the police. And we put out the last video we put out really tells that story better. It's a 5-minute film and it's called 1000 Days of Terror. It's available at StopHate.com. I encourage everybody just to go watch that 5-minute film. Now there's language, violence, and death. You're going to see it all. We don't pull any punches. We're not politicians. We want you to see for yourself what happened. Publicly sourced video. Anybody could do this. You know, the government could have carved off just a little bit of Ukraine money and built a timeline film for us and show us what really happened, but they're not on our team. They're not on our side, and they definitely don't have our best interest at heart.
Well, here's StopHate.com. And I like I said, I got to tell you, I'm covering a lot of different subjects. And this week was besides my friend Gary, who went through like a legal hell over J6 because he was there. And I've got two friends, Mike and I've got Gary. And but they weren't able to not be incarcerated. They were on house arrest and such. But this is the first time I've talked to somebody who was actually incarcerated. And I got to tell you, as much as you think you know about it, it just gets worse and worse when you start talking. I was in a group that you guys are also part of on a Zoom call this week. And I think you're a part of this group. And listen to the stories. There's a gal on there right now that she has got like 6 kids, and she's looking at 4 to 5 years, a mom in jail. This is war on we the people, and you don't hear these stories that are up close and personal. But anyhow, here's the website. This is David's website. And
listen, I talk to prisoners every day almost on the phone, get calls from prison, letters, text. We're in the systems. We're communicating with these families, with their support groups. On the J6 tab, if people scroll down, you'll support and action groups. And I suggest people go, look at Patriot Mail Project or American Patriot Relief. Some of these things, Condemned USA does legal advocacy. There's groups that have formed and come up to try to support and minister to these folks. We really need help through the holidays. These kids deserve better than what their parents are being treated, for sure. There's a lot of calls to action on that page that people can do. Some are free, some cost you $1, some are prayers and letter writing. So everybody can get involved. We're really disappointed in the lack of interest by the church. It's very specific in the Bible, says to minister to the widow, the orphan, and the prisoner. And all 3 of those have been made from January 6th. Widows, orphans, and prisoners. And look, we're not saying that everybody acted like a church boy or anything. There were some, bad calls. They did some bad things. But when you find out why they were pushed to that, why they were incited to the violence, and who really started the fight, I believe the media has done a really good job not showing anything but the middle. They show the fight as it's going on. They never show how it started or who started it. And just now the talking heads in the media are starting to say, hey, it seems like the police brutality played a big role in creating this chaos. Or, hey, the truth about Brian Sicknick is not out. That's not the real stories of what happened to him, the circumstances surrounding. There's so many things that J6ers could tell you, but for almost 3 years, you can't get a word in edgewise on these programs. They don't want to talk about it. Their bosses and owners have said it's off limits, and that makes you wonder how that all works together.
What are they hiding? And it's like as much research as I do. This is the first conversation I've had with somebody that was incarcerated, because you can't really even get to the people to talk to unless somebody that a person here or there, whatever, and we pass contacts back and forth, because we don't have access in so many different situations to the real truth. They're telling us what's going on. They're telling us what to think, and their reality, their narrative is so far apart from reality, it's not even funny.
But I'll just say, go to StopHate.com and scroll down, and you'll see the American Gulag Chronicles Letters from Prison book. It's the first book in a 2-part series. The first book came out a year ago. 100% of the proceeds go to help the families, but it's 35 stories from different guys, what they experienced, what they saw, why they went, what they went through on the day, or what they've been through in the prison system, or in the FBI raids, or asking for help for their families. And the second book just is almost out. We've started pre-selling it, and it's The Art of Confinement. And like I said, it's all volunteer run. All the money goes to help these families, but it's an awareness tool. This is a way for people to get involved and see the stories firsthand. But if you go to American Patriot Mail Project, then you can actually interact with these people. You can adopt them. You can find their gifts and goes. You can support their families. You were talking earlier about Rachel Powell. I think she has 8 kids, and single, and you're going to go to jail for 10 years maybe, and it's ridiculous. Okay, so some people did get carried away. Some people did break glass, but is it the most expensive window pane in the history of America, or what? I don't understand how BLM can crash every window in a city and none of them end up in jail, but these people, do 1 or 2 bad little things and they want them in there for life. It really makes no sense.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up this because this is one thing that I've asked questions about from the beginning with Bobby Powell's video, and I actually have access to some other video that I'm going to publish that nobody's seen, and so it's coming, and I think this is going to be really interesting. There's no possible way that anyone is going to make me believe that these people that were breaking windows were not either recruited or paid for or political operatives or BLM or Antifa. And I'm going to say it, it's our government that has created these organizations, just like ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, BLM. I'm going to say, which BLM to me is burn, loot, and murder. Has nothing to do with Black Lives Matters, because the ones that they looted were primarily the black neighborhoods. This is so, if you look at it and stop buying drinking the Kool-Aid and putting the pieces together, of course the cops start shoving people, they start pepper spraying them, they start throwing, shooting the rubber bullets at them or whatever they were doing there, right? Of course, thank God for testosterone-filled, red-blooded American males, because they're going to step up and do what God created them to do and protect their family. They knew what they were doing to start engaging things and getting, but I didn't see any violence from Americans. Not you. I just got back from DC. There's no possible way that a bunch of people with flags in their hands, yay, we're here for President Trump, could move 20,000-pound magnetic closed doors to breach the Capitol on it any way. There's no way that anybody could get within 50 miles of that Capitol without intelligence knowing exactly who they are, what the conversations are, because we are in a surveillance state.
Well, let's just say, not to sound like the crazy people on the block, because everybody, we saw the violence and stuff. You know what looks just like violence is self-defense and defense of others. And what Troy was saying earlier, when the police started it and shot rubber bullets in the crowd and threw flashbang grenades in the crowd, people did respond to it. And I won't say that some just innocent people got carried away. That, you know, and that's the truth of it. Not everybody's, and it's really scary for those innocent people that did get carried away to think that everyone says, hey, they're feds. You know, we really need to do our due diligence and use discernment.
Good point.
And we can't vilify everybody. That a lot of people got carried away and did stupid little things or said dumb things. What we would consider, but you know, freedom to cover a lot of that stuff, and the brutality from the police is not an excuse. But at the same time, these people are defending themselves. Like Troy said, there's women, children, strollers, pets in this crowd standing around waiting for Trump to show up, literally on megaphones telling the police, we're here to redress our grievances. Please don't shoot us. Please don't spray us. We mean you no harm. And the police opened fire. So when you consider that, and then you see how it got amped up and never backed down. They made the crowd disperse toward them, not away from them. They didn't handle it right. They were not prepared. The Capitol Police got duped. The Metro Police was the bully, and they kept the National Guard away so they could complete what they wanted to do. When the National Guard finally came in, it only took about 7 minutes to clear the place. It's amazing when you understand the nuance and really the timing of the day, which we've done our best at StopHate.com to lay out the timeline for people to understand for themselves and not have to listen to the media spin.
I really think that this is quite interesting what Ivan Raiklan put together, because this kind of tells it. He does a really good job of going down and connecting the dots of who was in charge of, say, the Capitol Police, how they're appointed, who was involved in this. We did a show on this, and Ivan is amazing. I love this guy, and how we get down here to Yogananda Pittman, who not only made the choices on people's lives, but you know, we're talking a bunch of lapdog politicians that are in the system in order to have the whole thing in a nice tight little package to create the situation and then jail the people that they create. It's the same thing that they do within the say the COVID situation or any of these situations. They create a crisis and then provide the solution, or they use it in order to further an agenda they have going on.
Then you have to ask yourself, is it for power and control and funding and surveillance? And look at the Patriot Act being used on patriots. And when you hear it, oh, we can never let this happen, unprecedented. Yeah, because the government generally doesn't murder peaceful protesters. It is unprecedented, but they want more money. They want more power. They want more control, and they want to vilify the good guys.
Well, and if you look at like the Bushes involved in that, I mean, that's not even their original name. They all changed their names, you know, because nobody's going to accept a Nazi name that comes in there. And I mean, just go back and look at the family histories, and you can see what the long game is for these people. It's just really a shame. So do you want to go to your case that you filed here? I have that pulled up a minute. It's
funny you said that. Okay. I was driving down the toll road this morning on the George Bush Turnpike, and I was thinking, you know, the programming is so deep, we even name our roads after our favorite criminals. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, if they've got something named after them, a building or a road or anything, that's right then and there. I'm like, okay, get away, back away from the crazy person.
I think the first step into taking our country back is to educate the people, because, over the last, I would say 40 or 50 years, America has become arrogantly ignorant. And one of the ways to do it is to learn the statutes, learn the laws. The FBI, the DOJ, Department of Justice, they aren't as powerful as the television shows make them out to be. And the reason that I'm suing the Department of Justice is because in the state of Texas, where I live, and in 34 other states, they have absolutely no statutory authority to be there. In fact, the statutes tell them, you're nothing. You're nothing here. You have no more power than an average citizen. So you're driving down our streets in MRAPs and dressed in SWAT gear and kicking in people's doors. You have no statutory authority to do this. And the Constitutional Sheriff's Association is becoming more and more aware of this. But the left tries to make them look like nuts. Oh, the Constitution doesn't say that. Well, yeah, the Constitution not only says it, but our statutes say it.
Yeah, well, we had such a situation up here in Michigan with Whitmer and her little fake kidnapping plot there, and watching how the police came in. And I know some of what happened there. Basically cuffed the two of the girls, and they rammed their house to the point where it was irreparable. And this was all part of this nonsense. I talked to another gentleman because I asked I talked to about maybe half the sheriffs in the state when I was running for governor. And the question I asked all of them was, why didn't you arrest her? And they're like, who's going to prosecute it? And I'm like, well, that doesn't absolve you from doing your job. You still have to do your job, right? So I met another gentleman who had an arrest warrant, and it was in proper form, went to the state police, and the state police said it's absolutely perfect. But he said, if you file it, we will shoot you. And he had a witness. This is what's going on in this nation. Even regular people, just regular people like you and me and all of us that have stood up just because we love this nation. The threat and the intimidation is incredible. I hate to say it, but I would be the one that would look right at that cop and say, shoot away. The case is going to be filed. And then you're going to be next for threatening me.
You know what that's happening every day? They get the 4 standard cookie cutter misdemeanors, and the government says if you don't bend the knee, we're going to give you 3 more felonies. They up the charges and up the ante. The police, so we can get our points on the board, or we're going to make you suffer, make your family suffer. The raids are intense. I mean, there's so much going on to it that people just aren't aware of because of our gatekeeping media. Hasn't done a thorough job. They've chased these court cases like we're never going to win that because people have been dumbed down, like Troy said, so much about the legal system and how to protect ourselves. But Troy's the expert at that, man. He can read and he can understand these things. And a lot of people just have not done their due diligence.
Can you imagine, though? I agree with you. Can you imagine having somebody that has an illegal arrest warrant for someone who broke the law, whether it's the governor or anything, and having the Michigan State Police, somebody on the Michigan State Police say, if you file that, we will shoot you.
Yeah, that's terroristic threats.
Yeah, yeah, right. They're the terrorists. I mean, for them to say, and there you go. That's why I like the sheriffs, because the state police here in Michigan has turned into nothing more than the little KGB operation. Gretchen Whitmer had him allegedly following the congressman around in the house to make sure that she kept an eye on him. This is like any communist society we've ever heard. We're full on commie here, and with what they're doing, and these people are going to have to be they're going to have to be prosecuted for the treason that they're committing, because this is treason, flat out.
It is. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say the same FBI field director, Stephen D'Antuono, that was over that Michigan FBI plot, moved to Jan 6 to D.C. right before the D.C. thing to do it again. And people, if you connect all these dots, you're going to see that it's just corruption at its finest.
Well, look at that guy that was over in Maui, the head guy in Maui. He was also there in Las Vegas when they had the shooting in Las Vegas. They move these actors around that are part of their little intra-government terrorist army. Now, do I believe that everyone there is bad? I think there's some very good people that have stepped up to expose it. I think that's one of the greatest things that the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, did and is continuing to do, is expose the criminals. Anybody he points at or gives an endorsement to, I'm looking at them going, Papa D there, who's taking care of us, is pointing out exactly who we need to look into. Christina Carano. I think people need to look into these people, because he's trying to help us figure out who the real threats are.
Yeah, and there are real threats out there. That it's interesting that you bring that up, because Donald Trump, at the time he was the president of the United States, but a lot of people overlooked the fact that he was also the commander in chief, the top military officer. So when you do these things, or you try to overthrow the military, you try to engage the military in treasonous acts, or actually, Donald Trump does not have to legally go through the Justice Department under the United States Code to prosecute. He could prosecute them under the UCMJ because he was an active member, and what was done to him, he is a member. He's the highest ranking member of the military. And so if you were to prosecute these people under the UCMJ, it has a different set of rules than our civilian laws. They're going to Guantanamo, and they're going to be treated accordingly.
All I can say is hallelujah to that, and I was talking to General Flynn one day, and I said, when I get in there someday, I want a couple of planes going round trip full speed to Gitmo, and with full payload, of people who have committed treason, because we're going to have to clean the nest out. You can't rehabilitate people who knowingly broke the law, who knowingly were part of an insurrection to topple this nation. Open borders, all of the illegals. This is fighting age males. We're not talking families. And the kids that are going through look to me like they're being trafficked instead of, as human shields, because they're gutless cowards, and they use children and women to help get them into this nation. So anybody that's out there, if you're using women and children, you're just a gutless coward. There's going to be a point in time where this is going to be very clear that this was a really bad idea. So yeah, I'm amazed at this. So we've got a few people in the chat. Do you know Judah Ayers?
No.
I love this guy. He was on yesterday, and he's done a lot of work within Michigan and the Amway Corporation, the globalist Amway Corporation, with the DeVosses and funding. And he's got a comment on here. He said he would like to come on, so maybe I'll give him I'll give you the link in a little bit here, Judah. Who funded BLM anyway? So he's like, BLM, Amway, globalist, DeVos, Soros, DeVos, elites. If people want to know who is sitting, they're going to have economic means in order to fund the World Economic Forum. They don't necessarily make money. They have to have their hands in different pots in order to centralize that money structure and the power structure. So you got to start asking your questions. Who's involved in this? And the detective work that's going on within the state of Michigan right now is pretty damning on where this money is coming from. And I think we're going to find out that Miss Betsy DeVos, who decided to step down on January 7, isn't that an interesting little bit of information? Who is got some really interesting pictures that I'm going to bring out here within the next probably few days that are going to show everybody exactly what we have going on here. And those people that you've been taught to think are really good, I've got some Dutch in my background, okay? But I think we've got like a little Dutch mafia going on right here, that they've got everybody believing that oh, we're good people, we're the Dutch Christian community here. Really, that's like saying that every Republican, even though most of the party is a bunch of rhinos, is actually Republican. Or Democrats, demonizing the Democrats. Well, there's some good people in the Democrats, but by and large, we're talking about a communist structure that has captured our businesses, our institutions, including the colleges. They're money laundering through these colleges like there's no tomorrow, and setting themselves up with all of these nonprofits and all of this stuff to make it look like they're do-gooders when they're the head of the snake sitting right at the top. And you can't tell me that that the DeVosses, who are pushing nature boy crap out there in Ada, who have 3 satanic gods in their lobby, and who have a Pfizer plant there that they funded, and nobody's asking questions about this. Drop the labels, people. That's what's killing us right now. And I hate to say it, I've never seen a black person in my life. I've never seen a white person in my life. I've seen some variations of pink to really tan, right? But I have never seen a black person, and I've never seen a white person. And it's ridiculous to even throw that stupid label on us.
It really is. And I think a lot of the Americans are just afraid. the government, their shock and awe campaign, it worked to an extent, that they are afraid. But to pull the teeth from the lion, if you just educate yourself with your own local laws, your own state laws, because the everyone's afraid of the FBI or the DEA or the IRS. Here in Texas, we specifically call these agencies out. Every agency, every special agent of the federal government is listed in the statute. They are not peace officers, and they are able to make an arrest if they see a felony being committed under state law. Just as if you were to look at the statute that allows the federal government's actions, and you look at the statutes that allows the civilians civilian arrest, they're the same. Our laws also specify that only special agents of the Secret Service, when they're on a protective detail, has the authority to make arrests for misdemeanors under state law, and then arrest or investigate any crime under federal law, but only when they're on a protected detail. Other than that, the federal governments and special agents of the federal governments, they have no more law enforcement powers than the average citizen. And that's what the $2.5 billion lawsuit is all about. You abducted me from my home at gunpoint. You invaded my home. You robbed me. You actually stole things out of the safe that you broke open, when I'm not there. And so I'm suing them for this. I'm just not sitting by. Now, the bad part is that, when you're out there swinging in the wind against Goliath all by yourself, nobody's around to help you, not financially. Hell, on the left, they paid, they pretty much paid for BLM to burn down half the country. But when one of us is standing up for the rights of everybody, nobody comes to defend us. Nobody comes to help us. Dave and I, we've been doing what we do, with our own finances.
I did the same thing running for governor. And, I funded probably 98% of my campaign. And people don't realize that nobody owes them to fight for them. We need to, that entitlement mind of, they're going to take care of it. They owe it to me because. No, we owe it to each other to stand together. And when we have somebody that's honestly fighting, everyone needs to get in the game and help that person. And I had a discussion online last night about these ridiculous political parties. They're playing like an ego game of King of the Hill. They get nothing done. Zero. Have we seen anything done within the political parties? They're a distraction. They're doing nothing, right?
No. And, the legal fees and just everyday living, we don't have the resources that, like the president or like General Flynn had. He had a circle of rich friends that circled him and said, okay, we got you. We're going to help you. The regular guy, like myself and the Jan Sixers and Dave, we don't have those resources. And so we have to dig down in our pockets and to make it work with what we have. But it gets very, very hard. And everybody, I'm going to steal this from Dave's playbook. Everybody claims to be a patriot until it's time to do patriot stuff.
Yeah, you can say it, patriot shit. That's the
there
term.
You go.
It's like, that's what you hear, hardcore patriots will say it exactly like it is because it's the raw truth. It is the raw truth.
And I'll say something else about January 6th. A lot of the parties that were victimized, the arrestees, they were military veterans. And the thing about those veterans, a lot of them are war veterans. In the military, they teach us not to think, but to react. And a lot of them have PTSD. So when the cops started attacking them, their instinct is to react, is to, take charge of that situation and neutralize the threat.
So here you go. The government is using a predisposition of people that they know that they have abandoned, who have PTSD, serving this nation, and because they will not offer help to people in any meaningful way. The VA is a disgrace, and the mental health in the whole United States is a disgrace. They use that predisposition to incite a problem, and they were the spark that ignited the whole thing.
That's right. You know, in the military, the first thing that you learn to do is drill and ceremony. You learn to march, and you take the first step that you take is always on your left foot. If you've been in the military, you never forget that. Even in civilian life, you still make that first step with your left foot.
Did not know that.
Yes, you're also trained to, you don't run from the fire, you run toward the fire. No matter what threat it is. You know, the police, they will call for backup and wait for their backup. In the military, whether you Army, Navy, or Marines, you engage. You fight with the last bullet, the last gun, the last breath. You fight. And it doesn't matter if you're a uniform and you attack these guys, they no longer see, you know, all they see is a threat. You're threatening my family. You're threatening my children. And they reacted.
Threatening their country, you know, when you see somebody that's stepping outside of a lawful process, they're really doing the right thing, because we have threats. You know, you take a threat to both, you know, threats both to domestic, foreign, and domestic. And
that's right. And with the
domestic threat,
with whether they're enlisted or they're commissioned, when President Trump invited the guys to Washington, D.C., with all the chaos that was going on in the country. Now, it's kind of like a dog whistle. You know, civilians or people don't hear the dog whistle. But when you're in the military, the voice of the president is kind of like a dog whistle. And he's calling these guys out to Washington, D.C. So in the minds of these guys, they say, wait a minute, that's not normal. Maybe we better go and find out what's happening.
Because the president needs us.
That's right. Now, just imagine if there was really foreign terrorism going on and the president called the guys out because he needed his posse comitatus. And what if nobody showed up? The second thing, the January 6ers, if it was not for the January 6ers kind of being the dam between the water and the rest of the country, then Joe Biden's regime would have run amok, and we would have all been speaking Mandarin before anybody ever knew what happened. So the January 6ers, in essence, they slowed everything down just enough for the brain power of the rest of the country to catch up and realize, hey, something really is bad that's going on here.
That's a really good point. I never really thought about that the actions of the J6ers really has gained more ground than what I was picking up on. That's an amazing service.
Listen, there are a few people that have that founding fathers mentality that are willing to stand up and fight to the death in the jails, at their homes, with their fortunes and their reputations, the social terrorism. And listen, these people are standing strong, you know, the ones that can, and they are. And I think we owe them, you know, such a debt of gratitude. But listen, guys, I've got to go in and see my shoulder surgeon real quick. I'm going to leave this with y'all. Denise, I appreciate so much being here and getting to meet you. And I hope we can do this again real soon.
We will. And thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to we'll go through the lawsuit next here. And then I appreciate everything. I'll put your website up again, and hopefully we can come back on again. Would you guys come back on, say next week? I'm actually going to be at Mar-a-Lago next week. And so on Friday, but would you come back on again? Yeah, you can come with me, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys can come with me to Florida next week. That would be great. And I've got
do a show from Mar-a-Lago.
What's that?
We'll do a show from Mar-a-Lago. That'll be
fun. There you go. Do a show from Mar-a-Lago. I'm gonna be there for that, and then Saturday with General Flynn up here in Michigan. So which fighting human trafficking. Good. May God bless you with your shoulder. And then as soon as we get off the show here today, let's schedule another one, because you guys are amazing.
All right. See you later, Dave.
Thanks.
I'll
Bye-bye.
see you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's you and I here. Yeah, well, this is truly insightful, for me. I'm so fragmented in so many different directions right now that it's amazing how much I learn every day from truly talk. I like interviewing people because
Yes.
you're getting the actual unfiltered news. And I never know what I'm going to say when I come on. That's why, if I derp it sometimes, it's because I'm processing. There's no script here. I don't have a list of questions. I've got 4 screens going, and we're just having a conversation. And this is really the way that news should be done, in my opinion, to get to the truth and let everybody speak. Whether you like what they have to say or not, everybody has to get their word out there. So, do you want to go through the case next?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do this. All right, so here we go. And I'm going to just let you explain this and tell people what you've done, how you've done it, and we'll go through it step by step.
Okay, the only way to sue the federal government is through the Federal Tort Claims Act. And the majority of Americans have no clue what the Federal Tort Claims Act is. But unless you go through the Federal Tort Claims Act, then you run into something called absolute immunity or sovereign immunity. And the Federal Tort Claims Act is the only statute that Congress has allowed civilians to sue the United States for money for wrongs that were done by the United States. The government waived its immunity and allowed itself to be sued. And so I sued them.
And spectacularly too.
Yeah, when I was arrested for First Amendment speech. I was the first person to be arrested in this country on political speech related activities. And since 1968, the Supreme Court has said that political speech is the most highly protected speech in the under the First Amendment. Well, as you know, Joe Biden and his regime, they don't care anything about our Constitution. They've been trying to burn it up since he took office. Well, since Barack Obama took office.
Wow.
But yeah, and there's nothing that I said in my speech. There was no threatening victim. There's no victim. It was ambiguity. And what a lot of people don't understand, on January 6th, the federal government actually interrupted mobile phone transmissions.
I heard that.
Yeah, for 7 hours. Even Donald Trump's calls or his cellular devices were interrupted for 7 hours, and then they tried to fault him because they couldn't find records of his cellular devices for 7 hours. When they scrambled everything, and what that is that if you were sending multiple texts out, no matter who they weren't going to the parties. They were being held in the cloud in abeyance, And then once the mayor in DC, once she released the curfew, and they pulled the button to release the filtering devices, all of your texts came flowing out, and they were all jumbled up as though they were one communication rather than 13, 14, or 15 different texts.
Wow.
And so what they did with me, they took all of my texts at that rally and they put them together and said, oh, he's threatening police, or he's wanting to threaten politicians. That wasn't the case. But while you're in DC, you have no protection under the First Amendment. They won't let you use the First Amendment as a defense. And I knew that the only way that I could fight them is to get back here to my stomping ground, to the state of Texas. And that's what I did. I fought them on habeas corpus under protected political speech. That's still in the courts. And it's ironic that the same judge that I had, Donald Trump has. Yeah, and she's pulling the same crap.
That's incredible. So explain, Washington, D.C. is not actually part of the United States, is it?
No, Washington, D.C. is not part of the United States, and they're actually a member of UNPO. That's
Hey, we talked about this the other day when we were on, when we were talking here. Let's see, I'm gonna bring this over here a minute. And can you give me the UNPO, UNPO?
UNPO.
Because I looked this up. I thought this was really interesting. And it's something people need to know, A little slow on this sometimes, but here we go. Okay, so here's UNPO, Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. This is Washington.
That's correct. That's right. And there's Washington, D.C. is going to be at the on the North American continent, all the way to your right. That red and white dot over there, it's Washington, D.C.
Yeah, a minute. We'll get the map here a minute.
That's right. Go to the continent of North America, right there, and right to your right, the red and white dot right there. That's Washington, D.C. They're a member of UNPO. And people wonder why our Constitution does not work in the District of Columbia, where they're a foreign sovereignty, which is why the FBI or none of the other federal agencies have power in our states. Each one of our states is tantamount to a country within itself. We're bound by border, by the national border. But each Montana is sovereign from Texas. Texas is sovereign from Mississippi. And the FBI, the DEA, ATF, they have plenary power in Washington, D.C. and on any federal enclave. Now, what a federal enclave is let's look at your state as an ocean. And the federal government comes to your state and say, hey, we want to build some small islands jetting out of your ocean. And your state says, okay, we'll let you do that. Well, the federal government has as much power on those little islands as they have in Washington, D.C. But once they leave that island, they have no power at all. This is what a federal enclave is, like a military reservation, the post office, the federal courthouse, anything that has the United States badge on it, United States of America. That's a federal enclave. Under Article 1, Section 13 of the Constitution, it recognizes enclaves and it gives the federal government plenary power over that. Article 1, Section 7, Article 1, Section 8, and is codified under Title 18, Section 7 in the United States Code. It specifies or gives authority to Washington, D.C. You can have whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can make whatever laws you want in Washington, D.C. or on your federal enclaves, but not in the states. And the government and a lot of the sheriffs that were uneducated at the time, they thought, well, the supremacy clause, we have that supremacy clause thing. But the supremacy clause is only valid when the actions of the government are constitutional. And the second, the supremacy clause is only invoked when state law and federal law conflict. But in this case, where you have sovereign jurisdiction, it does not conflict because there's statutory federal laws in the United States Code that coincide with state law and tell the government you can only do this outside the jurisdiction of the state. But the FBI, a lot of the federal, Chronicle and FLETC, where federal agents train, they don't teach statutory law. They don't teach the Constitution. And so they didn't, I guess that gives them in their mind, the assumption that they can roughshod over the people in the states. And federal law is supreme to anything the states want to do, where our statutory law says different. The federal government is only in our states because they bought a patch of land from the state, and the state gave them permission to be in our state. And now a lot of the sheriffs are understanding this.
Well, and this is really interesting, is that when you do understand the law and are standing, a person that was not part of the cog, not part of the machine, could go in there and just kick them all out. It's just like Norton versus Shelby County. It actually was proven as a standing law that they don't exist. They only exist because we allow them to exist, and it's still standing on the books. So it's our compliance to their behavior. If a few people stood up and took one for the team, we would be able to write this pretty quickly, because eventually we're going to get to the bottom of their usurpation.
That's right. It is usurpation. And in March of 2021, the federal government actually sent a declaration of our sovereignty to the United States and tell them, you know what, you've been running roughshod over the state of Texas long enough, and we demand that you stop. And I mean, it was the first shot fired by Texas. And, we're going to lead the way on this. It's the new Alamo. That's
cool. So Texas has got a lot of motion down there. I know a lot of people who are patriots in the state of Texas, and part of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peacekeepers Association. I love those guys. So
yeah. And something else that the politicians have to educate themselves. And there was a few people that were running for Congress, and I had the privilege of speaking with them, or they had the privilege of speaking with me. But I asked them if they knew what the term attainder means. They did not. So I want to educate the public. You hear so much speaking about our Second Amendment rights, the Second Amendment, are they going to take our firearms? And you hear politicians, they're saying, well, if I get elected, I'm going to have more tougher background checks. Well, that's the guy you don't want to vote for.
Right.
Because under Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the Constitution, it reads, no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. Now, what attainder is, we don't use the word in our vocabulary anymore, but what attainder means is that the suspension of any civil right that follows a period of outlawry, felony, servitude, involuntary servitude. The government cannot take your rights for past conduct. That's what the king used to do. And that's the term attainder. And that's the most powerful term in the Constitution, because it secures all your rights. There are some people who say, well, if I'm convicted of a felony, I can't vote. Well, that violates attainder. I can't own a weapon. And yes, the Supreme Court is hearing cases now. Rather, the Congress has the right to outlaw, the mere possession of a firearm. Well, the attainder clause, which nobody addresses, specifically says you can't do this anyways. But you have a lot of politicians, and the first thing that they say, well, we need tougher background checks. It wasn't so long ago in the 1800s, when a person was released from prison, they received 3 things: a horse, a saddle, well, 4 things, a gold piece, and a gun.
Can't argue with that. I'm kind of a horse person, so I think that's a pretty nice send-off, right?
Yes, but our Constitution has not changed
right
since it was ratified. So what in the Constitution, now, he's carrying a gun. He's carrying a gun. He has a gun. Well, you gave guns to people just released from prison at the government's expense. What has changed since that time?
Well, and the Second Amendment is about having a well-regulated militia. That means that, honestly, everyone should be having a gun and carrying a gun to repel any threats, both foreign and domestic. Why is it that they're the only ones with firearms or with the ability to protect themselves? And I can tell you that the response time isn't real stellar at this point in time. So what are you going to do? Especially like you look at the great equalizer for women.
Mm-hmm.
We may not have the upper strength that we can bench press, 400 pounds and slam somebody on the ground. But you put a firearm in the hands of a woman and you've got equalization there real quick.
Yes, that's right. That's right. The great equalizer. And this is what people don't understand. The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment rather than the First Amendment. It's by design. First, you talk about it, and when fancy talk don't work, then you pick up your weapon and you run them out of town. And it's meant for the government, because you can hunt with a rock, a bow and arrow, a knife. Hell, you could throw a coconut at it, if you could hit them hard enough, and that's lunch. But firearms, in arms, it doesn't just say that you can't have automated weapons, because during the Revolutionary War, we had cannons, we had muskets, whatever the opposing side had, we have a right to have that. But the government doesn't want you to have it. And then the government wants to step in and say, well, you're threatening democracy. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic.
A republic, that's right.
The Constitution has 5,543 words in it. Not one of those is democracy. We live in a republic. And the federal government also says, well, you can't threaten members of Congress, or you can't threaten to overthrow the government. Well, we're allowed in our Constitution to not only threaten the government, but we're allowed to fight the government, because our Declaration of Independence, which is embodied into the Constitution under Amendment 9, it states that when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Well, there's never been a peaceful abolishment of a government.
They kind of go kicking and screaming and usually covering up their crimes and usurpation.
Right. They use the power that they have to try to suppress the masses, which they're trying to do now. And so our Constitution actually gives us the authority to run them out of town by any means necessary. And by dumbing down the people, you notice we don't teach civics in school anymore.
Yes, or life skills.
That's right.
Yeah.
But because we don't teach civics, Americans are arrogantly ignorant. They say, oh, we're free. You're only free because somebody else paid the price with their blood. Freedom ain't free. It costs. And you have a lot of people, not just from January 6ers, but the school board moms, the school board dads. Now the FBI is coming after them. And you have no authority to go anywhere. This is about bullying, plain and simple. It's about bullying, not about little Johnny.
Intimidation.
Yeah, they're bullies. And we have uneducated people that we elect into office that are that allow them to come into our homes and our states and bully us.
They're kind of kicked a waking giant, though, because I think the beautiful thing about what's happened in the United States is how many people are realizing how wrong everything is and getting that education. I would actually love not just a group, because there's a lot of groups out that are doing, say, pro se, or doing, there's a couple of different names for it, but filing on their own outside of the bar, which it's illegal to even say that you have a license to practice law, because it's not a license, it's a private membership. Right. And so so for them to require you to have an attorney is only hiring the people that are in bed together in the club, That's
correct.
We should be able to stand up and defend ourselves in a court of law. The judge is also working for us instead of the attorneys working for the judge, so that when we speak to the record. The judge is there to hear the record and make a determination on remedy. That's it's not as all, the great and powerful Oz is what they've been trying to sell us all here. And the judges, for some of the things that they've been doing, the judges need to be removed.
That's correct.
That, when you're taking money from a foreign entity, from George Soros, to fund these campaigns and such, they're an agent of a foreign entity.
That's correct. They are.
So, and they're sitting in the seats, every single one of them that has participated in this, and in the the trust that they're doing, and the civil action jurisdiction that we have going on here, where they're taking money out of every money judgment. This is nuts. Absolutely. I really think, though, that the more we keep talking about it, people are understanding exactly how deep this goes. And even if you think you're educated on something, another issue will pop up and you'll end up going down that rabbit hole to things that you thought you maybe knew, but all of a sudden it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's just like this whole DeVos connection with Pfizer, and and the funding mechanism for some of these associations. I mean, look at any of the corporations that have funded BLM or Antifa or that sort of thing. They all should be labeled a domestic terrorist organization because they're doing it through economic means.
Amen. I totally wholeheartedly agree with you. And
I believe
a lot of these judges, everyone knows that the criminal justice system is broken beyond repair. And if you know that a device is broken, why do you keep giving it any type of credibility? That's insanity.
Yeah.
But Americans continue, well, the judge said this, the judge said that, and this is how we know that the criminal justice system is broken. And, one of the things that when I was in Washington, D.C. in the Gulag, we would have think tanks. The government began calling the Jan 6ers in Washington, D.C., the College of Collusion, because we would sit together and we would strategize, and, I would teach them, hey, this is what you need to do, or this is how you respond to that. The government didn't like that. But one of the things that was really kind of warming, I had Kelly Meggs. He was one of the oath keepers. And he says in front of all of these guys, he says, Troy, this is the first time in history that white people have really known what it feels like to be a black person and what you guys have gone through all these years. And I said, well, welcome to the party, brother. But the government, they have an objective to keep us racially divided so that we're concentrating on each other and not on what they're doing. See, we have a common enemy, and that enemy is the government right now. The founders knew that we were going to come a day in our history that we were going to have to meet this beast again. And that's why Ben Franklin said, you have a republic if you can keep it.
Yep. So, well, let's look at this case a minute, and let's go down your case here. And if you can explain this, that would be awesome, because
sure.
I really think we need to have like a little bit of a since our education system, who was involved in that? Betsy DeVos, who resigned on January 7. I'm going to give her a good poke in the face because she's in this area in Grand Rapids, Commie Central here. That we really need to have a school to teach people, because they're not coming out of our government's indoctrination camps with this knowledge. Okay. So okay. Can you explain this?
Yes, this particular case here, this is against the Preston Heights Apartments. And I lived there for a number of years before January 6th. But this apartment complex actually aided the federal government. The FBI shows up there and, hey, we demand all the records on Troy Smocks. And this apartment complex just hands over all of my files and said, here you go. This is where he lives. Now, this is a luxurious gated community. And the FBI shows up there. Needless to say, they have no authority in the state of Texas whatsoever. And they shows up in these, this apartment complex, who is, by the way, anti-Trump.
Surprise, surprise there, right?
Yeah. And then after they gave the FBI, then they says, oh, yeah, by the way, you need to leave. You're evicted. And so I'm suing them because, throughout our history, every bully has always had assistants. Goliath, he had 4 brothers to assist him. That's why David picked up 5 smooth stones. But Goliath is he has the most notoriety as far as bullying, but the FBI is the biggest bully in the history of mankind. And the FBI has assistants, whether it's the social media companies or your landlord. And so under anyone's law, if you assist in a crime, then you're complicit with the crime. They assisted the criminals, they have to pay. And that's what the suit against the Preston Heights Apartments in Plano, Texas is all about.
Okay. So, hang on here a minute. I have, I'm going to see if I can find, here we go. There you go. There's the United States case, correct?
You're still showing the Preston case on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I have to move that one. Thanks for your patience.
No worries.
Okay. There you go.
And yes, and there is the $2.5 billion lawsuit against the United States. And by the way, the United States has failed to, they conceded to just about everything. There's nothing for them to fight. They know they can't do it.
Is it because they didn't respond, or did they actually admit that they were wrong?
Well, they responded, but they did not engage in the merits.
Gotcha.
And so we're suing them for $2.5 billion because the government came out and said, well, you know what, this is the biggest, January 6th is the biggest case, the biggest prosecution in U.S. history. Okay, the bigger the headache, the bigger the pill, right? The bigger the doctor, the bigger the bill you have to pay. You did this to us, you did this to me, so since it's the biggest case, it requires the biggest payment. And as of yet, I'm the only January 6er to bring a civil suit against the United States government. The government thought that it would be summarily dismissed by the court, and the judge says, no, can't do that, it's going.
So now you wrote your own case here, is that correct, or did you have help on this?
Mark Lieberman is an old Jewish attorney over in the Dallas area. He and I, this is a collaboration between the two of us.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Mark. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, there's good guys. Let's see. Preview. There's a problem loading the page. Wonder why.
That's probably the government. We don't want anybody else to see how to do this.
Look at that. I guess they don't want us talking about this, do they? You know what?
I guess not.
Well, guess what? In your face, people. In your face. We want to censor that, I guess. Let's see what else we can do here, because I think I might still have it up under other means. Let's see. We've got let's see. Nope, hang on a minute. Working on it.
And the lawsuit basically charges them with, abducting me, kidnapping me, trespass on my property, illegal search, illegal seizure. You can't say that it was done under the law because the law doesn't allow them to do any of this. And now the petition for writ of habeas corpus, that was to clear myself from the injustices that came about in Washington, D.C. This judge, she was totally biased. And what I actually said, in my actual words are in the writ, they're in the petition of the writ, but it's all political speech. I'm at a political rally and I made political posts, saying that Donald Trump was the greatest president in the world. What they were using, they targeted me in order to bring down Parler. They needed a reason to get all the conservatives off Parler. And the first thing that they did, they went to Google and they went to Apple and they said, we want you to take the Parler badge out of your app stores and out of your Play stores. But by the time that this occurred, there had been millions and millions of people that had already downloaded the apps and was using the apps. So they needed a reason to shut down the Parler network completely. And they used me in order to do it.
Wow.
Yes. And so, as you say, you know, I've been fighting them tooth and nail. I'm just not one to lay down. But, you know, it comes with hardships because, you know, when you have a family to feed and still you have regular things to take care of, and nobody has stepped up to help and say, hey, you know, we support what you're doing.
I think I'm going to be able to find this report. Here we go. Hang on a minute. I haven't given up on throwing this out here. We're going to see if it's on Justia. Oh yeah, this is interesting. Okay, hang on. Let's see if I can get through here and get to the case without their censorship. That's crazy that all of a sudden it goes black on the 5th page or 4th page there.
Oh, absolutely. And they don't want anyone to know.
No, wouldn't want anybody to know what's actually going on here. And here we go. We've got, there's your referring judge. We've got docket report. I think I saw Mark's name on here. I'm not even seeing the full case on here. Am I missing something here?
It's probably been taken off.
How did they take the case file location, check status? Okay, well, let's see if we've got it here. I have no idea it's free speech. I'm clicking whatever. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, you're going to need a Pacer account in order to.
Okay. Yeah, so they're hiding it there. So yeah, wow, isn't this special?
Yes, because they don't want anyone else to know how to sue the government and for what.
Do you have that? Do you have a copy of that? Can you send me or text me or better yet, email me a PDF of that case, and we're just going to put it up right now. We can do it right now. If you go ahead and send it to me right now, you know, in their faces. You guys keep hitting us. We're going to come back and we're going to do it in real time here, so there's no question of our action.
Let's see here.
Hit us online. That kind of just like gives us rocket fuel for you know, burying you people out there with the truth. Oh yeah, if I say the word China, my computer quite often will lock up, or the connection will go down. It's the craziest thing. I've had 2 people online with me that their computers literally locked up and fried as they were online with me. I'm not kidding. So this whole, when you talk about them taking the phones out during J6, everything's an open book. They're watching everything we say. And
yes, they are.
I always say expletives in my phone all the time, Adam.
Let's see here.
And I'm not real nice about it either, because I know they're listening. So I hope it leaves a little bit of a mark in their little fragile egos out there as they try to put down the biggest mutts on the planet. Americans ain't happening.
I just sent it to you.
Okay, keep hitting us, guys. All it does is just pisses us off. That's all it does.
I just sent it to you.
Okay, hang on a second. I've got several other lawsuits that they continue to like communicate with me. It's a beautiful thing. It's totally beautiful. Here, we just give it a second. It's downloading. Oh, this is gonna be great. They think they're going to take it down and black it out. No. And some of us actually listened to the direction that we got. Oh, I don't know, say in 2017, my favorite number, to actually save everything offline.
Yes.
In multiple locations where they'll never find it. Good luck with that. You know, government losers.
I still use the old floppy drive.
Oh yeah, that's
because you can encrypt them and you can put a code on them that they can't break.
Well, and that's why a lot of our nuclear installations and missile sites, they're still working off of those old floppy drives, you know, right. And because it's actually kind of a perfect way to do it, you know. And hang on. Oh, this is great, guys. Thank you. Now I've got a copy of the report. I love you for this, and so does Troy. We love you because you just gave us what we needed to do to get it out there to everyone.
Yes. And, like Donald Trump says, these people are vicious. And if they could do it to him, they can do it to us. And they use um, the power of the press or the fake news, and they just try to destroy your character. Everything that, it's so, it's mind boggling what they will do.
Okay. This is going to be awesome, guys. They took it down. They've scrubbed it so you can't see it on Justia. And guess what? It is going to be right here on Brandenburg News Network. And I might just put a copy out on Telegram and everywhere else out there just to make sure that we are educating everyone on the proper way to sue the government, usurpers, criminals, treasonous bastards that are trying to put this nation, bury this nation. Okay, here we go, guys. Now we're going to look at the whole thing. Thank you so much for giving us the inspiration. All of you sitting in there. It is an amazing thing to actually, here we go. Oh, here we go, guys. Troy Smocks versus the United States of America, the criminals in office who have set themselves up against we the people. Okay, here we go. Would you like to explain as we go, or would you?
The first part, you always have to, when you're doing a lawsuit, you always have to put the jurisdiction of the court, what invokes the court's subject matter jurisdiction. And under this is statutory 1346. That's the Federal Tort Claims Act. And this is where the government actually waives its sovereignty and allows you to sue them.
Thank you, federal government, for doing that. That was a good thing. Okay, and then we're down to procedural jurisdiction.
Yes. 2775A is a procedural jurisdiction. Before you can sue them in court, you have to do what's called a Form 95. And basically, it's a demand letter. You send it to the agency that has wronged you and said, listen, you did X, Y, Z to me, and you need to take care of this, because if you don't, in 6 months, I'm going to file a lawsuit against you. And the federal government always blows you off, like, go ahead, peon, whatever. And in 6 months, I said, okay. So I filed a lawsuit against them.
Okay, hang on a minute. I'm going to take some notes here. So Form 95, right?
That's correct. And you have a strict 2-year statute of limitations on your Form 95. So many of the January 6ers that this happened to, they'll never be able to file a suit because their 2-year statute of limitations has already expired.
They're wonderful. They really are wonderful at running the clock out. I saw that with what they did here in Michigan, because the gutless Michigan Supreme Court decided not to rule in any meaningful way because they said they didn't have jurisdiction. No, they didn't rule because they were cowards, and they kicked it down the lane. And then I sued in federal court, and once again they wasted time, proved that my rights were violated, but refused to offer restitution.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the federal courts are eggplants. And, these judges, they say that they can be removed, stay in office forever with good behavior, but their behavior is not good. And the Congress should start impeaching some of these federal judges.
Absolutely. Okay, about the parties. So we go down and we talk about the parties, and we define terms of who the defendant and who the plaintiff is.
Yes. Now, under the parties, no matter which government department or office that you're suing, you have to name the United States government as the defendant, because they're all subordinates of the United States government.
Well, that's a good way to do it. Federal government. It is a federal government, political sovereignty pursuant to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 19 of the Constitution of the United States of America. Well done. And you got the addresses on there, so they know exactly where to find them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then we have causation. So, alleging what the problem is.
That's right. You assaulted me, you abducted me, and it was all for retaliation for political viewpoints. you know, enter my home, search my vehicles. You know, it's you have no power to do any of this.
You've got all your footnotes there of to make sure that they've got everything right in front of them. I mean, I think that's the main thing is you've got to have everything written down in order to make it stick. You can't just kind of go in there and kind of allege something. You have to have it documented. You've got to have your sources listed. That's what I do know, right?
Yes.
Okay. So invaded the privacy of the plaintiff's private affairs, retaliation, intentional infliction of emotional harm, knowingly created a dangerous or deadly environment for custodial confinement and housing of the plaintiff, mental anguish, and then you've got all kinds of standing laws here. This is amazing. Now, you've been writing cases from when we talked offline. We found out that we are truly brother and sister here in the way that we think. And
yes,
it's really, I really enjoyed talking with you because, you know, we look at things very from an eternal perspective, and God first in all things for us, as well as to serve him here on this without regard to the future of ourselves. You know, we're here to serve, and neither one of us are afraid of anything. And that there is the most dangerous animal on the planet, the ones that are truly God-centered and have an eternal perspective, because live or die, not going to make any difference to me. I'm serving God, and he's got our days numbered. Doesn't matter. They can't kill us. They can't do anything to us that God doesn't allow, and there's always a reason. Right. And all things work for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. So whether it's good or bad, whether we live or we die, we're in the service of God Almighty in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And that is the biggest they have.
And the church said, amen.
There you go. I love that. So welcome to church once again on Brandenburg News Network. Okay, so here we go. That's right.
It's not our fight. It's God's fight.
It absolutely is.
And all of this started brewing, you know, when you started to take In God We Trust off of the United States and you start making it about money, you know, eventually, you know, God's going to have his say. And God never goes to palaces to find his warriors and his kings. He always goes to the dust and the ashes, you know. Jesus Christ wasn't born in a palace. You know, he came from humble beginnings.
Came from the stable, just like David. David was a shepherd. And, you know, the thing of it is like, I really believe that when you are around animals a lot, they have the ability to get to our hearts and teach us to love again. When, you know, we're going to go off the rails here once again. You know, when you spend time with true believers and people who serve God, as well as, you know, being with the animals and such, you'll find that there's a intangible quality of actually truly caring about those around them. And sometimes it seems a little rough around the edges, but when they see a threat, if you have, let's just say I'm there with my dog, right? I love my dog, love my horses and such. If that dog detected a credible threat, she is a force to be reckoned with. You know, she's a protector dog. You know, she's a German Shepherd, and things will get real quick. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're little fluffy bunnies. It means that, you know, because we do care, the strength of protecting those without a voice or those that are in danger really becomes a force to be reckoned with. You know, we're not going to be taken out by somebody who's a thug or somebody who's going to threaten or harm those that we love. And we love this nation. We're here for God, family, and country. That means all y'all out there. Doesn't mean one or two. We're not handpicking you. It doesn't matter if I agree with everything you believe in. I'll fight for your right to have that ability to have an opinion, to have your rights, because they were given by God. And who am I to argue with that? You know,
That's right.
we're gonna. So there you go. There's the Donna in church. Okay, well now we're back to legalese. So relevant facts. And you've got, let's see how many points you've got. So you did a really good job of putting in all of the facts that are just facts, not opinion. What happened?
That's correct.
Which ones in here do you believe are the most interesting or critical to the case?
Well, one of the things that I believe is most critical is the fact that the government has no power. You know, if the federal government, okay, it's not to say that they didn't have the right to arrest anyone that they thought broke the law in Washington, D.C., but there's a process. There's a statutory process. And the government cannot make treaties with the states. They can make treaties with the Indian tribes and with foreign governments, but they can't make treaties with the states, but they can make compacts with the states. And there are compacts that exist on how to get a wanted subject from the states into the custody of the federal government. That's called extradition. And the way that it's supposed to work is that if the federal government has a complaint or warrant or indictment, then the first step is to send that warrant and that charging instrument to the governor of the state. The governor, in turn, gives the information to the attorney general, which is the top cop in the state. The attorney general then filters that down to the elected sheriff in your county. And the sheriff goes out and executes the arrest. And then the sheriff takes you back to state court for extradition proceedings to the United States. So if you say, no, I don't want to go to the United States government, then the lower court has to say, okay, then we have to get a governor's warrant from the governor to say, okay, we're going to relinquish one of our citizens to this sovereignty. If the governor signs the warrant, then the court surrenders you to the United States Marshals or whatever special agent of the government is there to receive you. If the governor says, no, this is all political, I'm not going to let you have my person, then you go back home. End of story. But what the FBI, what the federal government has been doing is they've been bypassing this process like it don't exist. And they come right into our communities, kick down doors, snatch anyone they want, drag them off into a federal building, which is tantamount to a foreign embassy. You know,
definitely like, kidnapping.
That's right. You know, it's like the state of or the country of China is located in China, but China has an embassy or several here in the United States. Now, on those embassy grounds, whatever laws are in place on the mainland of China are also enforceable on that embassy grounds. The federal government operates the same way. DC is their country. In any federal building, courthouse, a military installation, that's their embassy. So basically what they have been doing is snatching United States citizens, dragging them off to their embassies, putting on their embassy airplanes and shooting them to Washington, D.C. And this is not when this is what the law says you can't do. There's systems in place to handle everything, but the federal government has not been abiding. They've been the lawbreakers, and they've kidnapped thousands of people over this January 6th where they didn't have the authority to do it. And maybe that's why we're getting censored, because they don't want anybody to know.
Sure, they don't want anybody to know what's going on here with you know, they want to keep us ignorant. They really do. They have done such a disservice, and you know, the MEA, the NEA, they need to be abolished. And
Yes.
because there is no go, there's no standard there. There's no investment in our children. We're leaving our children with these systems absolutely in an indefensible position when we kick them, when they're kicked out into the world. I mean, you only have minimal protection right now in the families because they're trying to destroy it. But when they don't know the law, and I mean, I think all of us have been in that situation to a certain degree. I mean, because we're, I know you and I are about the same age. I turned 60
Hmm.
here, and I can tell you, I had no idea when I was in my 20s, none. I had
Hmm.
some, things seemed like, what is wrong there? You always knew that there was something wrong, but you didn't know what it was. And that takes some time to get this figured out. And,
Hmm.
and they're specifically dumbing us down to keep us from being able to fight them. It's like, if they take away our minds, our education, our ability to critically think, that's just like taking our guns away to
Yeah.
protect us.
Yes.
It's where we are right now. Okay.
Yes. And like Kurt Lonnie is, I know you know him, right?
I
And
love Kirk.
yeah,
He's
he's a good
friend.
guy.
He's
And
the one that introduced me to you. I mean, Kirk is
yes,
great at making significant connections,
yes, he
and I just
is.
want to say thank you, buddy. I love you to pieces. Good guy, and
He
one of
really
the good
is.
guys that are fighting for this nation.
Yeah, and he's a sworn Texas peace officer. So Kirk and I we're talking, and he's telling me all about the constitutional sheriffs, and you know um, and then we have Chris Ann Hall, and she said, yeah, the sheriffs, and they have all the power, and everybody's going under the Constitution. But I said to Kirk, I said, yeah, but we have statutory laws, and he says, where? Because a lot of the sheriffs were not aware that there's law, actually statutory law on the books that back up everything that Chris Hall and the constitutional sheriffs have been saying. So now it's just not a constitutional theory. And in Texas, this law's been on the books since 1965.
Uh,
So
Yeah, it's amazing. You just got to study it a little bit. John Tater and I are on every Tuesday, and he was a history teacher, but he has also fought in the court system on his own behalf many times.
mhm,
And there's like the learning these laws that we have on the books is an extraordinary process, and how you apply them to defend yourself. I mean, this is how you defend yourself, is by
mhm.
understanding and not having to rely on the attorney club and the attorney judge relationship, but going in there and defending yourself. It's extraordinary.
That's right. And one of the most important things for the citizens to know is that when the federal law enforcement shows up at your home, you know, then you call your sheriff, because once you make that claim to the sheriff, you're making a complaint. Then it makes the sheriff liable if he doesn't come out and protect you.
And I think the sheriffs are also liable if they do not investigate. When you go to them with a claim, they are required to investigate your claim.
Yes. Yes.
And I delivered some evidence to our sheriff's, one of the deputies in our sheriff's department here in Kent County, and basically was put on a back burner on that. And it was about election. It's the part of the Locust Standy investigation in Michigan, and those guys are doing a great job. The election integrity force and there's a split in there. Not everybody in that organization is good. Like, everything has been
That's
infiltrated.
correct.
But you've got people like Sandy Kiesel and Joanne Bacali and Scott Ogney that are fighting, and they're fighting without pay for everything that's within them. Scott's amazing. I love Scott. He is a very, very on point. You talk to him and you're going to know you had a conversation, because he's going to make sure that there's no ambiguity in what he says. So it's amazing. So, okay, let's go on. Let's go down here again. So you've got Detective Sergeant Jeff, how do you say his last name? Jankus?
Yes. Uh, I'm not really sure how he pronounced his name. Jenks.
Jenks?
Yes. But this character, he said that everyone on Parler was extremist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm an extremist because I was on there until it wasn't. But I was taken off of Twitter too. I was knocked out of Twitter at the same day that the Flynns got knocked out. All of us were like, that should be a something somebody should go after, except for kind of like what Ian's doing right now. But that was a violation. That was a huge violation.
That's correct. And it violated President Trump, his presidential order. When they lock you out and they don't let you have access to your account, they don't tell you, you're just forbidden, you're done. And he said that they lose their, there's an immunity. Yeah, they lose their immunity there. But a lot of what these people are doing it's all predicated on fear. We were the first where they used the Patriot Act on all the Jan 6ers, everyone. And so, now we have this thing called Quad S. There's 4 S's. If you get an airline ticket, there's 4 S's on your airline ticket. Either, you can't go to, you can't travel outside the country because you're on the Five Eyes terrorist watch list.
Yeah, that goes right back to the Bushes too, when that was instituted. And that's what did they started out with 5 countries, and then now they expanded it to like 29 or 30. Yes. I think there's more than 30 on that, which is what these gutless cowards do to avoid the law under the Constitution that violates I believe, the 4th Amendment for surveillance. So they hire third-party contractors to do it. Every time that you are on the road driving your car, these third-party contractors have got cameras underneath all the bridges as they are scanning your every movement. And they're going through Verizon, they're going through your cell phones, and they're getting all kinds of information on you. There's nothing that's not out there, to which I say, I disagree with it. But you know what? If you're doing the right thing all the time, you don't have anything to hide, except for in your case, when they scrambled your text messages and made it say something you never said.
That's correct. Totally. And very few people actually realized that was happening. Now it's coming out more. And as you said, people look back and go, yeah, that did happen. Absolutely, it happened. And when you go into the airports, you have DHS and TSA. They search you a half dozen times in front of everybody. They follow you around. They're trying to chill the public from speaking out or resisting their actions in any way. If you do, we're going to treat you just like this.
You want to hear a funny story? So right after 9/11, it was a little while after that. I can't think of the year right now, but when they really locked down everything and in the air, I was flying through LA, and something set off the scanners, the scanners. And so they're like, they kept over and over and over again. I actually had one time somebody karate chop me in the crotch, just, when I was headed for somewhere, and she knew what she was doing. She did it in order to, and I hate to say it, I'm a little bit of a tough cowgirl. I'm like, whatever, you just shamed yourself. But anyhow, I was in LA, and they just kept over and over again. And so I started peeling clothes off. And I'm like, you're going to do this. We're going to do this right out in the public, and shame on you. And the people around me that were standing in the line were so shocked at that action to shove it in their faces that finally the people that were searching me publicly in that line decided to back off when they realized I wasn't going to stop. I'm like, you're going to do this, I'm going to shove it right in your face. And that sometimes, we got to get a little bit tough on these people, because once they realize that you've got no fear and they're going to take this to the line, that's great. We're just going to go right to the line with this thing, and you're going to be out in front of God and everyone else for your behavior. They back down.
Well, we believe in God. They don't. And that's one of the I guess that's one of the realities of it. It's kind of like, our Constitution is like a restraining order, not for us, but for them. And it tells you what you can do. But like a criminal, restraining orders and protective orders are issued by courts every day. But it's only as valid as the person receiving it respects it. Because other than that, it's just a piece of paper. And there's a lot of women that have been assaulted and even killed, but they've been waving that protective order in their hands. The government, on the other hand, they know that we're waiving our Constitution, but they don't recognize it. It doesn't mean anything to them. And it will not mean anything to them until the people of this country actually make it mean something to them. We have to be vigilant.
We have to remove every single one of them that committed treason, for sure.
Yes.
And that goes from the top all the way down to the dog catcher, and the clerks. And I mean, we can really. This is an expansive charge of what's happened to this nation. This is not just going after the scapegoats like Gretchen Whitmer, who clearly violated the Constitution and her oath of office if she ever took one. It's not just people like her at the top. That's really easy to go after them, but you got to start going down the layers to the legislature, the judges, the county clerks, the people who are employed at all levels of our government. If they have committed treason against this nation, refuse to stand up for the people, they're guilty.
About to cut it short, I want to make a point here. Just ask you a question. I always do critical thinking, and I ask, for every action, there's a reaction. So I look back at China, beginning about 5 years ago, and China built all of these ghost cities.
Right.
With Sachs. Who did China build those ghost cities for? Now we know. After you sell out America, you have a safe place to take up your money, your families, and move to China, and you have the same quality of life as your payment for selling out your country.
Well, they burn the United States of America down to a little charred rubble.
Yes.
I agree. So.
Miss Brandenburg, before
I leave, do you have more time? Because I'll give you as much time as you want. So you're the one that has to end the broadcast.
Yeah, I do. I got to run, but I was wondering if you could put our gifts and go up there. So, if anybody cared to help us, we could sure use it.
Did you send me the link to that?
I did. I believe I did, but I can send it. I could text it to you right now.
Okay, if you text it to me right now, or if you can email or text me, I'll get it up a minute real quick.
I will email.
Let me see if I can. I'll see if I can, search for it.
Okay. Reply.
Oh, here we go. I got it.
Okay,
here we go. Awesome. This is great. Oh, we really want to help you. And so, every day people they don't know what to do. And I'm like, every day I've been telling them, okay, so yesterday it was to get into supporting Holly DeBoer and her effort with redpilledmichigan.org to help fund candidates. And so today, and Alexa Adi, I think her name is Odie. I always do her last name. I have to think this through. So, but anyhow, here we go. There's the Give, Send, Go account for Troy. And really would like to have everybody consider that. I will post that entire case, which our government is clearly trying to censor through means. They're scrubbing this, guys. This is why, for me to come into some of these situations, honestly, I give it my best shot to understand what's going on, but there's so much stuff hidden there that it's kind of a little bit unrealistic. And you guys know how far I bounce around in the world of issues and such. But until we talk to people that are actually on the ground, that were involved, we have no idea what's really going on, because they're scrubbing things, they're changing the narrative. they're doing all of these horrible things to people, and we really need to continue to have these long discussions. So is there any other way that they can help you, whether it be write to people to hear things? I'd say pass this link on to as many people as you can.
Absolutely.
Pass on the StopHate get that one up a minute. StopHate.com. Let's go ahead and go back to this one with what David is doing. And
I would say that, David and his group, his organization is phenomenal. And so many, from Tucker Carlson to, everybody uses his footage. They use his stories, but they never give him credit for anything.
Well, this is one of those things too that I had not heard of either one of you. I honestly, I've seen Stop Hate. I've seen Stop Hate, but it wasn't in a meaningful way that I landed on it to study it, because I'm looking in a million different directions all at one time here, So this has really been incredibly informative, and I just really want to thank you. And here's the Give, Set, and Go account right there to help Troy out with his fight. It's a really big thing when people are willing to fight in a legal way. I mean, that's the way we're going to take the nation back. It's not grab your torches and pitchforks. That's stupid. That's what they want us to do. They want to incite violence. No violence, because we've got everything that we need to right the nation in a legal way. Our founding fathers, nothing's changed. We've got the law on our side. We can do this a legal way. Turn the mainstream media off. Forget these people. Flush them. They're all complicit, cowards, treasonous, part of the war against America of our own government. And so we're going to need to dig a little bit deeper in order to get to the bottom of this. Judah was going to come on today for a few minutes and talk about how the DeVosses and Amway have been funding some of these organizations like BLM and Antifa. We're going to have him on another day so he can show us exactly how that goes. But we're going to need to dig down on these issues to see what's really happening here. It takes more than a cursory look. It takes more than a cursory look at the law. We have got to study this and know what's going on. So let's look into his case here. I'm going to put that out on my Telegram channel at Brandenburg number 4 MI. I'm going to have every single 26 pages there. So plus the PDF, so that you can see that and pass that on, as well as the Give, Send, Go account for Troy, because it's extraordinary. So let's end this with a prayer, and then I'll give you some minutes for last words, and then we'll go on for our day. Okay.
Amen.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Troy and David and all the wonderful people that have been caught up in this January 6th Fedsurrection, the attack on American soil, on Americans, incited by treasonous people in our government. And we're just so thankful. I ask that you pour your favor out in each and every one of them, that you will right this situation quickly, that the mothers who are about to be sentenced to be separated from their children, 6 children, 8 children, however many children that they have, even if they have one child, this should not be, and it should not be on American soil. These people are not a threat to America in any way, shape, or form. The people that are a threat to America are the ones who have been serving Satan himself, that have been waging war on your children, your people, the people that you created, all of your children that are here. And we're thankful for this ability to be here now. You chose us to be here now, and you've given us every single thing we need to carry this fight to the end, in order to right this beautiful nation that you've given us, this world that you've given us, as one nation, one people under you. And we continue to submit to whatever it is that you ask us to do, because you're good all the time. You've been a wonderful friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you. We are committing to living for you, no matter what the consequences are from this day forward, because we want to do what you ask us to do, because we know that you're always good. The path is always good. You're before us, behind us, alongside of us. We don't have any reason to be depressed or anxious or anything, because you are right here with us, giving us your power, your strength to bring all things work all things for good to those who love you and are called according to your purposes. And we just love you. We're going to go into this weekend full of joy and happiness, knowing that every breath we take, every movement that we make, every word we utter is to your honor and glory, and that nothing we do is of ourselves. It's only because you love us, and that's good enough. We live here. Our treasures, the treasure we have is our treasure with you, salvation in Jesus Christ, and the family that you've brought together to be here at this time to serve you and all of humanity, your creation. And we just love you so very much. In Jesus Christ's precious name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And in closing, I would just like to say that our Constitution is not self-enforcing. You know, we as a people, we have an obligation to know it, live it, breathe it. And we have to, our representatives have to understand that there's boundaries that our Constitution sets upon them. And we as a people, we have to be vigilant in making sure that they do know those boundaries.
Got to instruct them, right?
Amen.
There you go.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on today. And
Anytime.
Well, okay, don't say that, because you're going to be on all the time, you know, and I think everybody needs to hear what you have to say, what David has to say, what the other people have to say. And I'm gonna spend some time on this and get myself more educated on the process. You know, it's a constant, but I'm thankful that you took the time to educate both me and everyone else out here and share your story. And God bless you for your heartache, and may God just shower you with blessings, opening
Amen.
doors, bringing people to the fight, you know, helping provide for you and make your way. I thank you. So anyhow, everybody out there, I'm still not conceding. So go to brandenburgforgovernor.com. I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. I'm going to have someday I'll have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about being a non-conceder, because he's a guy. He's our guy. We love that guy. And, you know, God bless him and General Flynn and Admiral Rogers and all the beautiful patriots that have stood in front of this great threat to this nation. And just so everybody knows, heart hands, you know, you're loved. God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. If you don't have a good example, be one. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. Make every minute of your day count. We need you. And I'll be seeing you Monday and back on and looking for our way out of this mess and finding solutions and answers. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.